chapter 1 of hopefully many chapters of a Facebook book about me. And I'm calling it Who is Amber? And I intend to answer that question. And I'm going to start in the beginning. I'm 43 years old. I was born September 11th, 1972. I was born in a town called Charleston, Illinois, by a father named Jim or James Randolph Milton and Karen Yvonne Milton. I was born at Coles County Hospital. My parents had a very estranged marriage. It only lasted about a year. It was slightly abusive on my mother's behalf, being the victim anyways, my father being the abuser. I'm sure he knows that. He probably regrets it now. Anyways, we're not going to get into that part of it too much, except that we'll just say that I ended up moving to California when I was about 12 years old. I had a little brother. He was about 1 year old, I say, when we moved. We're about 11 years apart. And from that point on, from the age of about 11, I was raised in California. I lived in Covina, and then off and on in different parts of Covina and Los Angeles. At the age of 18, I moved to LA for the first time. I lived with some friends. It turned out messy. I then launched it back up. During the beginning of that, I met someone when I still lived at home. His name was Francisco. He was my first real relationship. That turned out to be a little bit traumatic in the sense that it lasted for a really long time for me being so young. I was 17, he was 27 when we met, so we were several years apart. It lasted about 4 years, 17, 18, 19, 20, right before my 21st birthday is when we broke up. And from that point there, I jumped into a lot of experimental areas in my life. I started to experiment with being female, and I started doing that in the form of prostitution. My first boyfriend had left me with no real answer as to why, and I didn't really feel like any other men really cared about me, and gay men didn't really pay that much attention to me, maybe because I was too feminine. So I decided to be female, and I fell into prostitution. It was during this time that I met lifelong friends that I'm still friends with today, and also during this time that I first got to experiment with the idea of being female. I enjoyed it very much, but because it was attached to such strange circumstances, I was very much discouraged from continuing on with it as a young person by my family and my friends. So it was a part of me that I kind of sort of just put away and tried to forget about for a long time. A very long time. Even though throughout that time, I always found myself comparing myself present time towards past time. And I was always searching to see if that girl was still there inside of me. Even though I spent a large part of my, what I like to call, epic gay career as a man. So after prostitution and all kinds of trouble, by the time I was about 22 or 23, I decided I needed a change. So I relocated and recreated myself. I dropped old names and created new ones. I took on the name Rod, which I had always left behind. I never used the name Rod in school, in high school, and once in early elementary school. When I first moved to California, I decided to choose a new name, because I was always teased about my original name, which was Rodney James Milton. James after my dad, and Milton, of course, after my dad. So I opted for a name that was very generic, which is very simple, like everyone else. And I chose the name Mike, or Michael. So from the 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade, 9th grade, 10th, I almost went to 11th. We'll get into that later. I chose the name Mike or Michael. So then upon turning into a transgender or starting of transgenderism in my 18, 19, 20, I chose the name Michelle. And then when I transitioned back to male, I decided to use a completely different name, and hence to put away all of what I knew of being female, I chose the name Rod, which was short term for Rodney, which was my grandfather's name on my mother's side. My mother's father, his name was Roddy, R-O-D-D-Y. I was named after him, but I was called Rodney, so I chose the name Rod as a male. It was during this time as a male that I experimented with different areas of the social realm. As far as I was no longer female, I had to deal with gay men on a romantic and social level, rather than the kind of men that I was attracted to as a female, which were basically straight men. So I leaned a lot towards masculine males. So I was always looking for that ideal of ultra masculine male, which was that of like a, I don't know, for me being in Los Angeles, it was gangsters and cholos and thugs, things like that. And then also the hardcore terms on the white side, which was the skinheads and the Aryans and the cowboys, and this kind of ultra masculine persona was always very attractive to me. So I found that amongst the gay area, the only thing that you could find that really presented that was in the gay community, or I should say the leather S&M community, the Levi leather cruise S&M community, where those men epitomized that feeling. But then again, to gain their attraction, you in a sense had to be like them, since that's their ideal, that's what they like. So I tried as hard as I could for about 10 or 15 years to be that thing. So, I grew a beard, and I gained weight, and I got thicker, and I let all the masculine qualities of myself come out, and I tried to embrace them, and I tried to be comfortable as that thing, that image. But I found myself constantly uncomfortable. I felt as if I were wearing some kind of a costume, like a little kid dressed as a lumberjack for Halloween. It wasn't me. It wasn't me. So I never really felt fulfilled, and because it wasn't me, I felt I could never really interact as that person, as myself. So I had to change my voice, change my mannerisms, and try as hard as I could to be masculine, which is something I had to do as a little kid, which we'll get into later as a whole different chapter, which we'll call childhood. We're not going to do that right now. It's a different thing. Childhood, high school, that's a different thing. I just want you to know me. And I want you to know that I've been both. I have been both. I've been a successful gay male, and I know what it feels like to be female and to be seen and received as female. And I've known it for almost 20 years, and I have to say that nothing feels better than being seen as female. And I don't think I could honestly say that if I hadn't tried to be a man as hard as I could. So this first chapter is just about everybody knowing that I really did try to just be gay and just be a man. But it was never enough. Because the best representation of me that I could ever give the world, or anybody that I love, is this female. So I started my journey. At the age of 43 years old, I started my journey towards being as close to a real woman as I can be. And strangely for me, I think that's obtainable. And I know that I'm lucky, because there are a lot of men out there. And when I say men, I mean people who are born into male bodies that don't feel male inside. and want to be seen as female from the outside and want to know what it feels like to be a girl. And I know it's hard. Trust me, I know it's hard. At the age of 43, I'm doing it. So, what I want to say is, no matter who you want to be, whether you want to be a girl or a boy, or just the best you that you can be, I just want to say, do it. Do it. But do it for you. And do what you can. And do it the best way that you can. And don't compare yourself to others to help you figure out what the ideal of what you're supposed to be is. Just be the best you that you can be. And you will be beautiful. I promise. So this is chapter 1. And I promise next time not to get so emotional. But I want to tell my story. And I want to tell it to anybody who's willing to listen. So my name is Amber Lynn Melton now.